Welcome to Asian American Studies 20A, Introduction to Asian American History. My name is Harvey Dong. I've been teaching in Asian American and Asian Diaspora Studies for over 25 years. I was also an original founding member of the program, having been a participant in the 1969 TWLF strike that led to the formation of the first ethnic study courses in the UC system. So I'm an old timer for sure. Because of student activism in the late 1960s, we have this class today. This week's lecture will cover three areas. Introduction of the course with its themes and guidelines, syllabus information including dates, deadlines, grading format, office hours, and assignments. We also want to provide some approaches to the understanding of Asian American history. No history, no self. No history, no self is an important concept for both Asian Americans and non-Asian Americans. We all want to know our roots so that we can look to the future with clarity and direction. This theme is very much my own personal interest in Asian American studies. Knowledge of one's past is very relevant to understand the present. It prevents us from repeating errors of the past. The rise of the social and political movements of the 60s and 70s opened up the importance of this type of knowledge. The late 1960s and 70s, we knew very little about Asian American history. Asian Americans were not seen as important to the understanding of American history. This can have very damaging effects for both Asian and non-Asian Americans. The lack of knowledge of one's history can create a false sense of identity. Mistakes of the past become repeated. Scapegoating and stereotyping become the norm. Racial prejudice then becomes institutionalized, normalized. Master narrative ideologies come into the picture: white supremacy, racism, sexism, homophobia, colonizer mentality. The movements of the 60s and the 70s challenged this. People of color and white allies wanted change. The time frame or general scope of our class covers three periods. One, 1848 to 1882. This was the period of immigration. It can be characterized by open immigration. Chinese men created bachelor societies in California and along the West Coast. These immigrants were pushed by necessity, poverty in China, and pulled by attractions, opportunities in the United States. However, this push-pull idea was not enough to explain the whole picture. Additionally, the world capitalist system was becoming established. A transnational army of labor was being recruited, traveling across borders to work in huge entrepreneurial undertakings. The second part of the time frame, 1882 to 1965, it was the period of exclusion, characterized by exclusionary laws that barred Asian immigrant entry and settlement. Succeeding Asian immigrant groups were also barred using the racial arguments based upon the idea of coolieism, that coolie labor was a threat to white labor. Asians face racism and discrimination in both institutional and social practice, and within those contexts, sought to build communities. 1965 to the present can be termed the post-exclusion period. This was a period of open immigration, which allowed Asian communities to grow dramatically in numbers and ethnic diversity, and the post-civil rights era provided unprecedented opportunities for Asian Americans in housing, business, and employment and education. Not fixed, still lots of racism, nativism, especially during times of crisis. Also part of the post-exclusion period was Southeast Asian refugee migration, which was the result of U.S. military intervention in Southeast Asia. In the post-exclusion period, we see two Asian Americas, one considered the model minority, and the second Asian America, an impoverished underclass. Today, the doors are being closed again, and you can say that we're entering another period, a period 4 of exclusion. Question: which period do you see yourself or and others that you know? Okay. One may ask, what relevance do the earlier periods have on me? I would say that there is a legacy of institutionalized racism that carries over to Asian Americans today. There is also a legacy of resistance that we can all seek inspiration. There were setbacks in times of international conflict. International relations between Asian countries and the United States affects Asian American lives. During World War II, the war involving the U.S. and Japan, huge setbacks for Japanese Americans, some opportunities for other Asian Americans at the expense of Japanese Americans. During the 1950s, the Cold War between the U.S. and China led to harsh treatment against Chinese in the United States. During the trade war with Japan in the 1980s, Japan was viewed as an economic threat to the economic stability of the United States. This led to violence and hate crimes against those perceived to be Japanese, including the murder of Vincent Chin in Detroit, Michigan. In the present, with conflict between the U.S. and China, we see a continuation of past racism and stereotyping. Today, 1/3 of Asian Americans feel that they could become the victims of a hate crime. The photograph on the left is a 1942 photo of a Japanese American family waiting on a designated street corner in Hayward, California. They're all wearing numbered tags, which were required, and luggage, awaiting government transport to concentration camps during World War II. For what purpose? Because all Japanese persons were deemed enemy aliens. Asian American history is rooted in American history. We will cover a 177-year period of Asian American history. Despite this lengthy history, the perpetual foreigner stereotype persists. The stereotypes are interconnected with how people of color have been mistreated. Asian American history is a diverse history. It's diverse with regards to nativity, countries of origin, ethnicity, class, and different reasons for migration. Asian American history is a complex history, but by the end of the class, we should have the grounding to have an understanding of how Asian Americans have settled, what are the common issues that the community has faced, and how Asian American history can help us deal with what's happening today. The photo on the left is an anti-deportation rally in the Southeast Asian community in Minnesota in the year 2017. There were already protests against ICE deportations. Southeast Asian refugees represent the largest refugee community ever to be settled in the United States after being forcefully displaced by U.S. war and its aftermath in Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam in the 1970s. Refugees were often resettled in urban centers of concentrated poverty with few social or economic support. Families struggled to help their children navigate undersourced schools and racialized bullying. Southeast Asian American young people were disproportionately swept into gangs and violence. As a result, today Southeast Asian refugees are at least 3 times more likely to be deported on the basis of old criminal convictions compared to other immigrants. In our syllabus, there's a course description which explains what the class is about. This introductory course examines critical aspects of Asian American history. The main course objective is to provide students with a historical framework for basic understanding of the experiences of the major Asian American groups and to provide a foundation for comparative analysis. In so doing, the course will analyze how national and international factors have impacted migration and migration-related policies, influenced race, class, and gender relations, became linked with inter-class conflicts between capital and labor, and also connected to intra-class conflicts between workers of different nationalities. Finally, the course will look at the Asian American experience from the viewpoint of agency and resistance, what was done by the Asian population themselves to answer the challenges faced. The theme of agency and resistance will also study various historical entry points of support by other Americans towards Asian Americans. So with regards to the course description, some terms were introduced that describe what the course is about. One is that it provides historical frameworks. This covers structures of society and ideologies. The course also will provide a comparative analysis. We'll be looking at the different entering groups and how each group was treated and how the treatment of one group was carried over to the succeeding group. We're going to look at the international and national relations and how that affected migration and the treatment of Asian immigrants. Agency and resistance is also important. The pushback, the organizing work, the forming of solidarities against racial violence and oppression. We also want to be able to look into that. So in other words, we're going to look at the frameworks. We're going to compare the different groups. We want to look at national and international relations, and we also want to look at resistance, agency, and resistance. With regards to learning goals, we have 4 listed here. One is to be able to identify major historical events, persons, and ideas that have shaped Asian American history. Second, to develop critical writing and thinking skills supported by historical evidence. Third, to be able to communicate and work effectively in group projects and presentations. This will be done in discussion section and some opportunities in lecture also. And then finally, the last learning goal, to be able to apply historical method to analyze and compare the relationship between the past and the contemporary. In other words, to be able to learn from history, to apply history to the present, to figure out what's going on. The photograph on the right is a memorial for victims of the Atlanta spa massacre, where there were 8 spa workers that were killed in 2021. 6 of the 8 were of Asian descent. Epistemology refers to the theory of knowledge. What makes justified beliefs justified? Why do we have a certain way of looking at the world where a certain order is established? How can we think outside the box, outside the dominant ideologies that divide and often subjugate us. We all have important experiences and value that make us who we are. In understanding history, we have to be able to analyze how our own upbringing influences our own thinking and prejudices. Ronald Takaki, one of my mentors, used to always say we cannot get away from ideology. And we need to be aware of how it affects our thought process. We cannot always be right, and we need to be cognizant of that. Epistemology, as defined by Ronald Takaki, is a critical thinking skill. Epistemology asks the question, how do you know what you know? In other words, the how of knowing may be more important than the what. How you know something may determine what you know about it. Lectures and discussion will be weekly. Make sure you attend and participate in both lecture and discussion section. We are covering a lot of important material, and hopefully what you learn can be something that you can carry with you lifelong and share with others. So this week will be no discussion section, but next week make sure to attend discussion section, okay, as well as lecture. Course requirements and grading. Discussion sections are worth 30% of your grade, and this would include class presentations, quizzes, discussion board entries, field trip entries, and class participation. CP courses for the deadlines. Late assignments will be deducted, 1 point per day late. Midterm is worth 15%, and this includes identifications and essay. There's an 8-page term paper, and you submit it in 2 parts. One is the topic, which is worth 5%, and this includes a book review, outline, and bibliography. The second part of the term paper is a finalized paper, and that's worth 25% of the grade, and that's due in B courses. Make sure to use standard MLA footnote and bibliographical formatting. Include in your oral history interview the entire transcripts in the appendix. Late assignments will be deducted 1 point per day. Okay. The final exam, which includes identifications and essays, is worth 25% of your grade. And there's also extra credit opportunity in terms of field trips from an approved list, which can add an extra 4% to your grade. This class has 3 books and different PDF essays to hand out. So required readings with regards to the books include Strangers from a Different Shore by Ronald Takaki. This is a classic that's used in Asian American history classes. It was revised in 1998. The second book is Asian American History by Hu-Ping Ling, and this is an updated history of Asian Americans that was published in 2023. And the third book is The Forbidden Book, The Philippine-American War in Political Cartoons by Abraham Ignacio and others. The Forbidden Book covers a little-known war between the United States and the Philippines with lots of lessons for us about colonialism. And this was written in 2004. Okay, so these are the 3 books. Strangers and Asian American History you can find available online through the UC Berkeley Library. Forbidden Book you need to purchase, at the Eastwind Books Berkeley website, www.asiabookcenter.com, and there are also copies at the Ethnic Studies Library. Asian American History Speakers Series. Through support from the Ling-Chi Wang Fund, there will be 8 community speakers who will come to our class to talk about their experience and knowledge. There will be presentations, but also important for students to come up with questions and comments to make the presentations worthwhile. Topics taken up will include the Asian American movement by activist and author Mary Uematsu Kao, Chinese Seamen and the Titanic by historian genealogist Grant Din, Japanese American internment by writer and filmmaker Chizu Omori, Cold War in the 1950s. This would include John Hayakawa Turek, historian and professor, the China Initiative by Joyce Xi, community activist and photographer, the Cold War Repeating Today by Ling-Chi Wang, professor emeritus in ethnic studies, Southeast Asian refugee history by Danny Dongxi, the Civil Rights Movement by Marion Kwan, and finally the Thermal Liberation Front strike by activist Jeff Leong. Make sure you do the academic integrity pledge that is in B courses. In this class, we want you to demonstrate your own understanding in learning the course materials and do not seek shortcuts such as AI, generative AI, and chat GPT. See the term paper topic assignment, though, about the use of AI to assess and review, let's say, your term paper assignment. Students are bound by rules of conduct that prohibit academic dishonesty that include, but is not limited to, cheating, fabrication, plagiarism, or facilitating academic dishonesty. Make sure you cite your sources and manage your citations. Make sure that your work is meaningful to yourself and your community. And if you have any questions about any of this, please see your GSI or myself ahead of time before you submit your final assignment. The UC Berkeley Center for Teaching and Learning is doing a voluntary research project on uses of generative AI. They're looking to form a study of 2 groups. One, students who do not use AI to assist them in their topics and term papers. The second group would include students who will use AI to assist in reviewing their topics and term papers. They would then compare the finished papers of both groups. Emails will be sent out by CTL, Center for Teaching and Learning staff, to request for volunteers. So if you're interested, make sure to respond to their email requests. So for week 1 this week, there's no discussion sections held. Make sure you spend the time that you do have to look over the syllabus to see if there's any questions. To assess the field trip list, maybe start scheduling. There's 2 required field trips for you to select. Get your books. Make sure that your UC Berkeley online links are working. Start doing the readings. Get your copy of the Forbidden Book. There's a discussion board assignment. Make sure that you answer it and you write it yourself. And then next week, the following week, Monday, I'll be doing lecture in the first half, and Mary Uematsu Kao will be our guest speaker. Make sure to think of some questions that you may want to ask her, so that way it won't just be a one-way lecture, but more of a Q&A after her short presentation. And then I'll be also having Zoom office hours on every Monday from 9 to 10:30 a.m. and also by appointment, and also before or after lecture. So thank you and have a nice day.